right, I think we're going to get started. We are a minute into the hour, so let's go ahead and kick things off. Thank you everybody for joining us for our HUD Export Utility User Group training on ProLinkHFA. So we are recording this session and we'll go ahead and skip into the agenda here to see what we're going to be talking about today. So 10 minutes are going to be with me. I'm going to just cover some general info like we normally do for these sessions. Then we'll have our HUD Export Utility Overview section of the training, how to create your HUD data export. We'll spend about 15 minutes there. Then we'll have a 10-minute break, and then we'll continue on with HUD export files. Sorry, I have the comments over the presentation. HUD export files and error resolution will be 45 minutes, and then we'll finish with Q&A at the end. Okay, and then just a reminder for anybody who hasn't attended this in the past from our agencies, ProLink hosts a monthly webinar series. So this is part of the ProLinkHFA track. Basically every quarter, we replace the 45-minute webinar session that we host with our user group training. So this is actually open to people outside of our user group. It's open. We leave our trainings open to anybody who's interested in attending. We do know who is attending these, so we're aware of everybody who's joined, and they are geared towards housing agencies nationally. The majority of those who attend our training events that are every couple of months are our existing users of ProLinkHFA. So that is kind of the audience here, but we encourage you to also attend those shorter 45-minute webinars on a monthly basis too. They're definitely more kind of informative for people who are less familiar with ProLink, but we do cover topics that are, new to existing clients too. Even clients that have been with us for a long time will cover things that you may be not as familiar with or might be new to you. So I encourage you to keep that on your radar and join when you can. And our next webinar topic, which I'll discuss at the end of this event, is going to be in August, and it'll be focused on managing multiple funding sources. So that's going to be the theme of our next event. These webinars always include kind of a business case presented at the beginning, and then we have a technical presentation, a demo within ProLinkHFA as the second part of that. Okay, let's move forward. Quick who we are. So I think everybody on this call pretty much knows who we are. ProLink has been in business serving the affordable housing industry for way past 20 years now, and we serve all the different parties. We try to reach and serve all the different parties within affordable housing. So obviously we're very ingrained with state and local housing finance agencies. We also support tax credit syndicators and investors, and in more recent years started to work more with developers and offering them services, which it was evolved out of connecting with developers through some of the other tools that we offered the other parties. So we try to build holistic tools that bring people together, bring you closer to your clients, to the organizations where you're reporting, and try to eliminate the inefficiencies of the affordable housing industry so that we can hopefully improve the net benefit to our to the people who are really served by affordable housing. So that is the goal. And our team is made up of mission-driven people. We have a lot of people who've been with ProLink for a very long time and a lot of new people now too. Mission is the core of what drives us. It's something that we like to ask about and really kind of interview anybody who joins ProLink and make sure that that's part of what fuels them, because it's important to the work that we do, and it's really we want our goals to be aligned with our clients' goals. So that is who we are. And then moving forward from here, I have a few slides I think to just talk about our presence within the industry. So you can see on the left-hand side, we have a list of the number of agencies we work with. So ProLinkHFA supports 15 state housing finance agencies and 2 supportive services agencies. We also work with 5 syndicator, investor, and lender clients. We have very strong partnerships with NCSHA, and then we actually host the NAMA XML standard group on Procorum, which is a pretty cool use case for Procorum, and that's a newer opportunity that ProLink's been a part of. So we're a part of that group, and then we also host that group on one of our applications, which is very cool. We obviously are hosting this webinar series, and then we have a bi-monthly homeowner assistance fund webinar as well that we host. The other thing that's not on here, which should be, is our ProLink Tech Live conference. So that happens every November. It's more of a user group event, lots of training series, but again, it's open to all. So we opened it up to any participants nationally to attend that last year, and we're going to continue that in November. And then you can see we have our partners, Amazon Web Services and DocuSign. Those are other, large providers that we've been able to integrate into ProLinkHFA and our other products to better serve our clients. So that's very exciting and something we will continue to really evolve with. So moving forward, this is again just highlighting that NAMA group that we're a part of. So that is really NAMA is the standard XML format that is exported out of property management software. And so with tenant compliance, it's very important that us on the technology side for the housing agencies can inform and request additional fields, changes to that XML format coming out of that property management software so that we meet the reporting needs of the agencies. So that is this group which we are very much involved with. And currently we're hosting 69 members on Procorum, and that is growing. We're currently on version 6 of the NAMA XML and hoping to progress into version 7 soon.
Bria, quick note on that. We do have a NAMA working group meeting scheduled for later this month. So, everybody, if you want to learn more, if you want to join, email any one of us, contact any one of us here at ProLinkHFA, and we can get you signed up and you'll have access to that information.
Good. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, moving forward. Something I wanted to highlight here in putting this deck together, we do a number of things, preparing for industry conferences, bringing in content for our webinars, having some fun things to share through our marketing group. One of the things that we've really started to get a good cadence with is building customer success stories. So we've featured Virginia Housing Asset Management as a case study, Oregon Housing Community Services, and then the Procorum Marketplace, which is actually a way for developers to source gap financing through Procorum, which is very cool and new, and something I really look forward to talking to our state agencies about, making sure that that's part of kind of the references that you can give your clients who are looking for gap financing. So this is a program that ProLink has run for a few years now. It's something that we want to continue. That's the blessing with virtual presence and being more active virtually, is the opportunity to bring stories and kind of put things together for us to look at and study across the industry more frequently. So here's that's the shameless disclosure in case I contact you. But if you do have any unique stories about your state, about success during the pandemic, really, and it's not around ProLink, but anything related to affordable housing, we want to share that. It's great when ProLink products are a part of that success and helping you be efficient with your work. But please let us know, and we would love to partner with you and help put those things together, both for your marketing and also for ProLink's benefit as well. So we'd like to share those things across the industry as much as possible. All right, then moving. Go ahead. One
more thing about these success stories. Keep in mind that this could be the practice or the start of your agency applying for the awards for the annual NCSHA conference. So just keep that in mind. We could help you out a little bit.
That is true. And we have a very talented marketing group who comes from an audio video background. So yeah, so let us know how and what stories you have to bring to the table. We'd love to talk to you about it. All right. Then this again, for anybody newer to ProLink, this is a quick picture that we usually do, a bird's eye view of our system. So you can see we have ProLinkHFA on the left. That's your back office system. That's where you're doing your daily work. It's your source, your record keeping. It's that final source of data for you. And then we have our tools that are married to ProLinkHFA. So Procorum is that customer portal where you're interfacing with your clients and outside parties, gathering information, going back and forth, requesting additional information. And then that data is exported a lot of times using Smart Docs, which is that Excel and Word add-in tool to eliminate the data, the manual data entry into ProLinkHFA. So that's kind of the way that it all works together. You can see here, sorry, Kelly, go ahead and forward for Sarah. This is just a quick picture again of the different modules that are included in ProLinkHFA. So your agency may or may not use all of these right now, but they are all available within our product. So we have our single family development and REO module. We have our multifamily development bond financing, including tax credit allocation down there in the orange. And then we have our asset management and compliance, which also includes a lot of supportive services functionality as well now. Okay, and then I think maybe that was the last slide. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over now for us to begin our training on HUD export utilities.
Thanks, Bree.
Thank you. Are we off mute? We are. Hi, hello, good afternoon, everybody. And I am Sarah Supernaud. This is Kelly. You've worked with us both. Hopefully we've been helpful and entertaining at the same time, as is our goal. Today, we're going to be going over everybody's favorite HUD export utility overview. And we do have some clients who have done this before. I believe we have a couple of customers who last year was their first time doing it. And as with everything, there were some pain points. We were able to make some updates over the year that should help. And the good news is, according to my caller, there are no updates for this year for anything that you'll be collecting for the 2021 data year, correct?
Yep, that's so what we understand.
We are going to get going and hopefully you can see my screen. We will have some questions at the end. If you have questions, I guess you can just pop them into the chat at some point and we'll address them, or we have a Q&A functionality I see. And we'll have a break kind of halfway through. So if anybody needs to grab some water or whatever you need to do, we'll do that. So for our HUD export utility overview, the basics of the utility itself is we're going to review the HUD data collection fields and what those mean in the system. I don't know if everyone has noticed the enhancements we added last year, so you have better access and knowledge of what you're collecting. We have to verify your configuration settings are correct. I'm fairly confident everyone's are, or we would have heard, but we'll give you a little way to show you that when they're not set up, and you can contact us. We're going to show you where the HUD export utility lives in ProLinkHFA, what required fields are needed to generate your export, and how to actually create the HUD data export. So the first item we want to talk about is one of the enhancements we added last year. On your Edit AM Characteristics screen on your property, we added a box called the HUD LIHTC Data Collection Box. You may have seen this. You may have wondered, like, what sorcery is this? What is this for? So we're going to let you know. I'm going to bring over. Here's a property. And when I scroll down to the AM characteristics, there we go. This is where that box is. So once you have checked that and saved this, I'm going to be swooping in and out of here. It's going to give you this option called HUD Export in your selected property panel. And yes, dear.
Sarah, a reminder for everybody, when you do select that HUD LIHTC data collection option or checkbox on your AM characteristics. You're going to do that just one time for your property for the life of its monitoring.
It is forever.
Yep.
Until you change it. So-
Yep. So you don't have to do that like every single year when you're wanting to do your HUD export.
And we don't have a way of automating to update all of them, correct?
No, since it's a one-time thing.
That's what I thought.
We imagine so, it'll be, you'll have to click through and click it on your properties, right now to get you up and running with it. But then going forward, as your properties come newly into the portfolio. So, a few a year,
Right.
when you're doing that onboarding,
So we
you'll
would
do that
suggest-
selection.
We would suggest making that part of your internal process. When you know that
Yes.
you're onboarding a property and you're leasing up and it's going to be active on your program, make that part of your process to select that box on the AM characteristics. So that is done.
Yep.
Now, what that does is we do have the HUD export page, and that's going to show you a lot of the fields that are going to be collecting information to provide to HUD. I will swoop back over here and click on the screen. And you can kind of see as you hover over these fields, this is not a good example because I don't have a lot of data put on here for you to see, but it's going to tell you, where these fields come from. Like, for example, if you do have a file that you've submitted to HUD and it's missing a field, you can go to the property and be like, oh, I don't know where to put that. It's going to tell you where that data is supposed to live. Then we have the project file extended information that you wanted to speak to, I believe, Kelly.
Yes. So in this section, you can see that these fields kind of look different, right, from the fields at the top of the screen. The fields at the top of the screen, those are read-only, right, because they're coming to us from different various screens throughout our property. This extended information is other fields that are available to be collected within the HUD export that we don't necessarily, or we don't have fields throughout the property for those right now. So this is a methodology for you to fill in that information about your property and be able to submit that to HUD. Okay. And that's available both for your project, which means that'll go into your projects file. And it's also available for your no longer monitored. There's a couple fields there too. So, if you are submitting your files to HUD and you're seeing missing information and you're like, well, I know that about my property and I want to submit that to HUD, you'll be able to locate it in these extended information value areas here in your HUD export.
Exactly. Okay. So next, and when you're going through the application, if you have had that box checked and you didn't know it was checked and you see all these random orange ribbons on various fields, these just kind of are a visual indicator that these are HUD. They're HUD related fields. And I believe on some pages, it says like, hey, this is a HUD related field. It will indicate that that's what that means in case you may be someone who just saw that one day and was like, oh, okay, now I know what that is, right?
Sarah, a quick question that we have in the chat that I think is really important to kind of talk to everybody about. Is that HUD LIHTC data collection checkbox on your AM characteristics, is that required? And do I have to do it for every property? No, it is not required. Absolutely, it's not required. You can still do your HUD reporting with no issues in terms of the population.
Right. Because that little box doesn't say, well, we're just going to pull information from properties that have this box selected. It's not going to do that. So no.
Right. All that box on AM characteristics does for you is give you that menu option like we see here on the screen so that you can see what is going into your files and where that data is coming from. So if you want to have, the luxury of being able to look and find data that might be missing and the like, you will need to select that on all of your LIHTC properties. Okay. But again, it's not required at all. It's just This is an enhancement. This is a helper function for you to be able to better understand what's happening with these files that you're generating that we're going to learn how to do here in a couple minutes.
It's
So,
just a little educational and informative information that we put that there for you.
yep. So
No
not
stress.
required.
You
Yep.
don't need to stress about it. But yes, if you do have that box checked, you will see the orange ribbons throughout. If you don't have the box checked and you have an aversion to orange, then you won't see them. So you'll be happy if that's your case. So the HUD allocating agency code. This is something that is provided by HUD. I believe there is some documentation on their website. If you don't know what yours is, there's a good chance if you're currently in production as a customer, we have updated that. You have that in there. And so if we have it, then your system administrator has. It is assigned by HUD. And again, we just suggest you contact Mike Holler if you don't know, or let us know, because again, like I said, I have the power to pull up a sheet that's got everything on there, I believe. I saved a link, so I'm special like that. Okay. So then we have both values for HUD PIN and HUD ID. Those live on the Edit TCA deal screen.
Correct.
Speak to that.
So, probably my recommendation is, when you're getting to the point where you're issuing the 8609, that you're pretty sure that this thing is going to go, that this property is going to head over into monitoring. So that's a good time to dig up the HUD PIN and the HUD ID for your tax credit deal and just get those numbers filled in. Okay. Again, this is a one-time data entry, right? Just at that point that you're getting ready to issue the 8609, get these things filled in, and then you'll be ready to roll from that perspective of the tax credit deal and the information that's included from there into this HUD export.
And this is,
and that you can get that HUD ID from that litech.huduser.gov. And you can look it up there, but also, kind of same idea with your allocating agency code. If you're having trouble finding the information from HUD about your tax credit deal, you can contact Mike Holler. He'll help you out. He's really good about getting that information out to you or getting you pointed in the right direction.
Yeah. And the documentation section on that portal has a lot of that information out there as well.
Yep.
And I'm sure anybody because I don't know, like from an agency standpoint, how many people have access to that portal. I know it's just, you have to sign up and go through some kind of odd virtual obstacle course to be able to get in there and reset your password every 90 days.
Okay.
Or they won't let you in anymore.
Okay.
There's a lot of great information out there, and we're going to kind of cover a little bit of that as we go. Because we didn't just make this up. We had points of reference. So the one way to tell that your HUD allocating agency code has not been populated is when you actually do try to create some sort of export, it will tell you must populate the HUD allocating agency code. So again, that will, if you need help with that, let us know, but it's pretty self-explanatory. And I don't know that we've had anybody run into this. But if you do, this is how we deal with that. Also, for whoever is going to be exporting the files, you want to make sure they have the correct security privileges. Like, for example, you have one person whose, entire job, favorite thing in the world to do is the HUD exports. If they are not a system admin, you want to make sure that their security role has these two security privileges selected. So they have the honor and duty to access the HUD data export. They would also need the utilities panel privilege as well, which is worth mentioning. Okay, so now we have a pop quiz. And these are the questions we're going to ask you. And I believe that Ryan and Sam are going to post a poll. There we go. So this is a poll. So what determines the agency's HUD, the agency's HUD allocating agency code? And it's one option. Which one? How do you get that? So you all can click on there and answer that question. And then we have our true or false question. The HUD export utility is located in the admin panel, true or false. So I'm not sure how long the poll is open for.
Ryan will let us know when the poll closes.
This is where we need the playlist too.
Yeah,
Music to think by,
right,
music to poll by.
right,
The Jeopardy sound.
right.
We can do better than Jeopardy. I'm convinced that we can. We can get the heavy metal version of Jeopardy, possibly. I don't know. The jazz version. All right. So do you want to show the poll results? Okay. Question 1, absolutely correct. HUD assigns the code. True or false? The HUD export utility is located in the admin panel. That is false. It is located in the utility panel. We tried to trick you and we did a pretty good job. But obviously, if you're in there and you look in the admin panel and it's not there, you're going to look at the utility panel next. So we'll give you a break on that one. Thank you, Ryan and Sam.
And a quick kind of note or mention, this slide deck will be available for you after the webinar is over. And so you could grab this and use this as a little kind of refresher how-to guide when you're ready to get started on your export here, which should be like any minute. Any minute.
Let them
You should
breathe
be
until
starting.
August, man.
If it's your first time, I want you to start now because it might take a minute to get the hang of it. It might take a minute to recognize, what of that information is potentially not filled in for your portfolio yet.
Correct.
So, if it's your first time, maybe kind of venture into this already, right? We're getting to mid-July already. So, dive in there and get started. And, those of you who are kind of old hat at this, you're
already in there doing it.
Yeah. So
we're just waiting for questions because we know that you're early birds on that. And that's fantastic.
Yep.
All right. So let's see what our next slide is. How to create the HUD data export. And this is kind of the easy thing because it's just pushing buttons. When you actually want to generate the files and you go into utilities, like all the other screens on ProLink, it's going to have your file type that's required to export the file. And it's going to be marked with a red asterisk, as well as the data collection year. And that's going to be your 4-digit year. Then it's going to display the export history below that. And we'll briefly go over that in a moment. So you have the option when you are in the utility to pick all file types. You can pick just the project file or the project's no longer monitored file or, just the tenant zip file. Or you can do them all at once. And so you would just select your option from your drop down here and enter the data collection year, and then you click create export. So that part's easy, right?
Right. A quick note, a quick thing to remember and kind of think about, when you are ready to do this, first export. Remember that data collection year, right? Like that's not the year that we're in, right? That's last year. So in your mind, think about, okay, what year of tenant events did I am I just trying to finish up? Like some of us might already be started into 2022, and that's totally fine, right? Mm-hmm. But really right now you should be wrapped up or wrapping up 2021 tenant events. So that's really what we're reporting about right now. So you're always a year behind. Just keep that in mind.
Okay. And we want the compliance reviews to be finalized.
I believe
for the most exact data that they can provide to HUD.
I believe so. Okay. I believe so. I'll do a double check though, if that's required or not. But yeah, finalized is better, right? Because then that gives us the signal that as we're the person creating, this export, okay, hey, my compliance team has collected this data. They've reviewed this data and they're saying, this is how it is for this year. Okay.
Right.
So
yeah, because all the events that are going to be in the tenant zip file are going to be from the current year. Yeah. And for the data to be correct and not like generate some weird errors, they need to be finalized. And I talk about that based on Just the testing we did a few weeks ago. I did for my own sanity.
Okay.
So we have notifications on that page when you have created the export. Basically, once you hit create export, pending means we're working on it, and completed means, we've completed processing this. Hopefully, it's completed without errors. If it's completed with errors, it's going to tell you. And there's going to be, if it's just like, I don't know, error log, it'll have the missing data file column that will generate a record there. And that's going to kind of tell you, oh, okay, so we found these errors. This data is missing. You need to go reconcile this data before you can go forward with your successful export. Now, cancel. Kelly, this doesn't cancel something that's currently going. What it does, if you have done 6 or 7 exports for a reporting data collection year, and it ends up you're only going to use the last one that you exported because it had all the correct data, you might want to mark those as canceled, just so anyone else who goes in there to look at the files knows that anything with the status of canceled, they should not use.
Yep. It visually gives you that cue when you're looking at that list screen of, okay, for each year, here's what I truly submitted. When you mark those others that you're ultimately not going to use as cancel.
Right. Now, once the file export is complete, the user who generated the export is going to receive an email letting them know that it's done. And depending on how much data you have, is going to depend on how long it's going to take. Sometimes you have hundreds of units, and I'm thinking of a couple of our agencies, specifically New York. That would be a good time to go get a cup of coffee while it's processing, especially if you're doing all files.
Yeah.
But and you'll get an email to let you know that's done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if your project data file and project's no longer monitored file are empty, that is legitimately something that could happen if you did not place any buildings in service that year, or if you had there were no compliance end dates reached that year for any of your monitored properties, right?
Yep. And so just to note too, because this process will email you when it's done, you can leave the screen and go do other work and do other things. And then once you get the email, go back and
you don't have to wait
once
on
you're
it.
there. Yeah. So it's kind of nice.
It's like putting in a prescription at the pharmacy. We'll let you know when it's ready.
Yep.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so here we have another quiz, and I believe it is time for another poll. We're waiting for the poll to magically come up because we.
And you'll have about 1 minute to answer the poll question. So Ryan, whenever you're ready.
Right, well, I think he wants me to go over the questions first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we're kind of asking you what fields you need to run the utility, and it's asking you which fields are required on the export utility page in order to create the export. And then how the history grid, does it include a link to a log file or does it not? And then what exactly happens when you run the HUD export utility? So it's giving you 4 options to answer there. So we will let Ryan and Sam generate their lovely poll. No, we can do better than Jeopardy.
Ryan, go ahead and put up the poll.
Ta-da!
Thank you. Okay, folks, you have about a minute to answer these questions.
Bree, do you have Aretha Franklin ready at the,
I'm super
Get going. I realize that's not a joke anymore. I'll get it going.
I had it on my phone, but I turned my phone off so it wouldn't like alarm or call or explode or whatever.
At least for the break, let's hear the Aretha Franklin radio.
Yeah, we promise to be more pop culturally aware at our next training with the music. All of us collectively, yes.
Yep.
It'll be like, here's all our checklists for the webinar. Do we have a playlist? Yes, we do. Okay.
Okay.
So we could sing, everybody would leave, and their ears would bleed.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have a timer, so I don't know if a minute is up or yet. Ryan, you tell us when a minute is done.
He will, because it will disappear.
Okay.
Like magic.
Oh, you're right. It'll tell us the outcome. Okay, there we go.
What fields are required?
to run the utility.
It's file type and data collection year,
Yeah.
not or. That was tricky. True or false, HUD export history includes a link to a log file that includes the details about the export process. That is true. And scroll down to question. Oh, that's me. I can scroll. My bad. What happens when you run the utility? A link to the export file is included in the HUD export grid. Yes. See, everyone knows that's not true because they know what a manual process it is to have to upload them physically to HUD. But, does that mean we didn't answer it? Right. So the correct answer was a link to the export files included in the HUD export history grid. So good job.
Okay.
And I think that means we got a 10-minute break.
Okay.
So everybody go get some water.
So let's say it's 1:37 right now. So we'll come
I
back
have a
at
timer. I'm gonna do my-
1:47, just so that everybody knows. Come back at 1:47. Do we have to have both the HUD PIN and the HUD ID entered on the edit TCA deal, or is just the HUD ID required? Both are required.
Okay.
Yep, they are. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of keep that open on the side, and then I'm gonna let Sarah take over.
Okay. So I believe this is where most of our discussion is going to take place, to the files themselves and the error resolution. Hold on, let me drink some water so I can be articulate and you can hear me. So these are the files currently that we have available for export, for the HUD export. Now, the tenant XML validation file was new as of last year, and some of you may have already gone through the process of submitting your data to HUD before you actually got to enjoy that. But so this year we'll be able to see that. It's kind of like a missing data file for tenant events and compliance reviews.
So really, if you look at this list that Sarah's showing you, it's just those last three, right, Sarah, that we actually submit to HUD. Those
Right.
first two are helper files that ProLink has created for everybody to help you kind of get through the whole thing.
Right. So you don't have to just, guess where everything or what's going on or why is this one being difficult. That's good. I should have color coded that. I will color code this when we are done. So we're going to start with the tenant XML data file. This is totally separate from the tenant file that we talk about that shows up at the end of the row. This is just basically giving you information about specific events that may have problem data, because I believe that we kind of created this this particular file so we could catch those most common issues that get reported when you do put up do upload to HUD. So you could take care of that before the upload. Now,
I think that we're going to try as much as we can, year over year. If we are getting errors that a lot of you are reporting to us that you're encountering, we can try to incorporate those into this XML validation, just to kind of help going forward. Because I think that, the last year, maybe two or so, although HUD has not made changes to the actual fields that we're collecting, I do believe that they continue to enhance the validation
right.
of the data that they're collecting. So, year after year, we might encounter, some different scenarios. And so, like I said, as folks hit those validations, and we see a good amount of those, we'll try to incorporate those, in this XML validation, just to help you out and give you the heads up and just make it easier for you to do the actual submission. So.
Right. And we were talking about this as we were setting up these. Okay. See, Patty's got an excellent question. That's kind of like, we are pretty confident that these would be errors that you would be able to resolve when you're evaluating your compliance reviews, because they would come up as exceptions or possibly missing requirements. But, you know, if your agency has a gigantic portfolio and maybe someone hasn't finalized it, or maybe somebody just overrode an exception just because, you know, they wanted to go home. That sounds like something I would do, actually. You know, this is going to show that, oh, hey, you know, this is wrong.
This is going to hang you
So
up.
it will show up in the evaluations, but again, these are exceptions you can override just to get that review to finalize. But HUD's not going to be cool with that. And this is going to show you that. I don't believe negative rent was picked up. Yes, negative rent is picked up. Oh. I don't know. You can't see our screen. When you see me just randomly talking, I'm not talking to a ghost. I'm talking to Petty. He's saying that I don't believe negative rent was picked up. So what you're saying, Petty, is if someone had entered amount of negative rent, that was not picked up in the HUD data file.
No, I think he means in the compliance review evaluation. Is that right, Petty?
Oh, we're going to make a note of that.
We'll make a note on that one and check that out and see if we might have an enhancement there that we can add.
Nobody should have negative rent. That field shouldn't even be allowed to be negative, correct? Okay, this is a discussion we can have offline. Sorry.
Yep. Thanks, Petty. Thanks for pointing that out.
And you know
we'll
what? Petty, if you want to put in a ticket to make sure we don't forget after we leave the room with this piece of paper, that would be okay too. Exception. Okay. Apologies. And so some of these values that we have up here that we took, is he good?
Yep. I think
Okay.
so.
So some of these $4,000, you can't have a gross rent over $4,000 and still qualify for LIHTC. And there are rules that the LIHTC spreadsheet export tool that you can get on the HUD website that kind of covers why this is not allowed. So that would be something that would come and say, this is why these are in your validation messages. So what it does, you know, for example, you have, I don't know which one is going to go to Oaks of Wellington. Oh, whoops. It has like the gross rent for unit is invalid. So in that scenario, what you want to do is go back to the unit, because it's going to tell you exactly, you know, the property name, the BIN, and what that unit number is and which field it is, gross rent for unit. So if we go over here to, was that Oaks of Wellington? It sure was. Pardon me. Oh, there we go. And it was 2122B. Pardon me. Bingo.
Excuse me for just one moment.
Thank
We've got
you.
a little bit of background noise.
Someone's having a party. So here you go. If you go to this particular tenant event, and this is obviously a very old one that we've gotten information for, it's got the tenant paid rent is $4,700, which turns the gross rent into over $4,000. So this could have been something just as simple, should have been caught during the evaluation. There's a possibility that maybe, you know, that property wasn't finalized or evaluated for that year, and the asset manager, it just slipped off their radar for whatever reason. Because the evaluation would technically pick that up. But at that point, you would probably want to confirm with the owner agent, it's supposed to be 475, right? Because that sounds a little more logical. You'd save and return, and that would be one of the updates you can make in the system and go through that list so that you get all those fixed before you generate the file again. But as Petty had mentioned, most of this should be caught during your evaluations and when you're finalizing reviews.
Yeah.
All right. So the missing data file will show properties that have one of the following issues, where you have a property with a BIN with an active compliance program for the data collection year that does not have a placed in service date on the building.
Mhm.
At that-
Now, that one, like, perfect example, that one is gonna be caught in an evaluation as well.
Exactly.
So, these are things, again, that, that you could maybe see them when you do this HUD export, but very likely you will have cleaned up a lot of it by
Yes.
running the evaluation.
This is just
of
like the
compliance
second
reviews.
safety net under the trapeze at this point.
Yep.
Now, pending tenant event submission status, you can't finalize until that's submitted.
Right.
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 So you also, again, you think that would be caught, if you have tenant events and the compliance review hasn't been evaluated, and it's kind of marked as dirty, as we call it, it will show up on this screen. If you've evaluated and you haven't cleaned up the missing requirements, so it hasn't truly evaluated until you've gotten rid of all your missing requirements. And again, it's going to tell you if there's a county missing on the building during missing requirements, more often than not, compliance program is missing, et cetera, et cetera.
You don't have your income limits loaded for the.
Oh, yeah,
year.
that, right.
Those sorts of things, right?
Exactly. So again, the hope is that, that all these will be taken care of by the time you've evaluated and finalized your reviews. Participants can now see your screen. When could they not see your screen?
I don't know.
Okay, so
That was weird. Keep going.
I know, yeah, I know. We're like, oh gosh, are we haunted? So basically, what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought. What if you do have a large property and maybe some of your validations of have these been finalized, have they been submitted, and you think you have everything, if any do fall through the cracks for some reason before you do report to HUD, this would be where it would happen and you would see the data.
And like Sarah said, this is kind of like the second safety net in the whole process for you. Okay.
So then we have the project data file. Okay, so this is basically any property that you have started to lease up where the place in service date on the bins or a bin is in the data collection year. Those are going to be pulled into your project file. And what that looks like is, I'm having to lean forward. This probably looks bigger to you than it does to me. If you have the year placed in service is going to be based on the data on your line 5A of your 8609. And so the theory is you'd have the 8609 with the place in service date. That is going to also be the same place in service date you have for the bin at the property level. Now, in the event,
I apologize that I'm interrupting you, Sarah. We may be having some technical difficulties. I think that I'm not sure that you all can see our screen okay. So I'm just going to do a share there and make sure that we're showing our screen okay. We are looking at this file. This is actually an XML file that we're looking at. Ryan or Bree, let us know that you can see our screen okay.
did he just ask us if we could try again?
Yeah, I see the present. You're talking about the actual PowerPoint
Yes.
snapshot. Yes.
Okay.
I'm looking at that. Mhm.
Okay, I apologize for interrupting.
Oh,
I just
no,
wanted to
don't be,
make sure
You're allowed.
that we were
That's fine.
sharing the screen. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
That's okay. We're very considerately interruptible with each other here. Okay, anyway. Your place in service is going to be populated based on the place in service date that is on line 5A of the 8609. That was a lot of numbers and letters all in one sentence right there. So I wanted to get that right. Now, there is a chance that you may not have that value in there because, you're going to skip tax credits for the first year, right?
That could happen.
Or you haven't allocated yet.
Or you just haven't gotten to issuing the 8609 just quite yet, but you're about to do it.
Yeah, and that's okay because in that case, what's going to happen is I believe that it's going to
Projected, right?
if it does not have field 1A date of allocation populated, there we go. It's going to put a value of 1911 in there, which is going to let HUD know that that data is missing. And that's fine. I think we had an issue last year where that wasn't happening and that was causing errors. So we did fix that. So if you're in this scenario, and you experienced this error last year, you won't experience this year.
Yep.
Because we kind of made the code change to fix that.
Mhm. And remember, if you wonder about where these fields are being populated from, if you can turn on that data collection checkbox on your AM characteristics, you'll be able to actually see in the property from that HUD export menu option, where these fields are being populated from your property. Okay.
So then we have the no longer monitored file. And this is going to show you it's not monitored, which is a whole different thing. And you're a mom and
Yeah.
Does it populate the earlies of all 6?
The earlies, for an example, an AC rehab deal would have 2 different placed in service dates. You know what? That's a good question. And I think what will happen, there's one or the other that we report in here. Sarah, let me have the notes pad. I'll double check on this. It'll pick up one or the other, and I don't recall which. I think it'll do the rehab part of the deal, but I'll double check and make sure and provide that information to everybody to make sure which one of those it'll pick up. I believe it's the rehab part.
The earliest. Would it be the earliest or the
Which placed in service?
Or would it be the latest? I feel like
I think it would be the latest,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Because that would be the rehab part of it, but I'll double check for you.
Okay. All right, we'll zip that out over here. And we'll keep an eye on that one. So then you have your no longer monitored file, and this is specifically based on the compliance programs that you have set up at the property level for LIHTC. So if you have a compliance end date on any of these programs that occur in the data collection year, whether it's January 1st or December 31st, those are what should pull into this particular file. And you can kind of see, I've kind of shown the data view where I pulled in the information. So how many properties do we have that are going to be no longer monitored after this year for this data collection year? And these are 3 projects and how they show up in the Excel.
And you know what? A quick note about this project's no longer monitored file. For the year that you're working on. So right now we're going to start working on 2021. If you didn't have any projects complete monitoring in that year, then your file is empty.
Do you still upload it?
That part I'm not sure about. I'm going to check on that because I'm not sure if they want you to upload the empty one or not. But I just want everybody to not be alarmed if you get an empty, no longer monitored file. That's okay for that to happen. Okay, don't be alarmed. So
Well, I was alarmed the first time it happened to me. When
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's because I had never done it before. I was like, what's this? Oh my gosh. Oh, that's okay then.
my file's empty. So
I went to the help link and it told me.
oh, there you go.
Yes.
Okay. I will check out if we have to upload that empty one or not and give a confirmation out to everybody.
Okay. All right. So now we have everybody's favorite, the tenant event file. I don't know if this caused more. I think last year it caused more errors because we had to implement the change to the AMI values. And I believe that we had a couple of agencies that had to go forward before we made that change. So there was some like crossover, timey-wimey stuff. This year, that should not be a problem. We're pretty confident that we've made the changes that are going to not generate those errors on your tenant event and uploads when you upload them. So for anybody who's not aware of it, what happens is when we do the tenant files, they generate a zip file on the HUD export page because there's just so many events. We can't fit it into one file to meet HUD's data upload requirements, correct?
Right. They
And
can't
so-
they can only handle files that are so big. So you have to cut them down to separate files so that it doesn't break their upload.
So it kind of shows, you see the files do get pretty big. And so, what you can do is you can extract them to it like a folder on your desktop or on your computer and just upload from there. And you do have to upload them one at a time, correct?
Yes.
You can't just go whoop, put them all up there. Okay. So, and that's what you would have to do. So basically it brings in the events that fall in the year entered in data collection. And based on like whatever tenant event date is in there. Whoops, sorry, I got excited. And I don't know if there's any, I'm trying to think of some of the issues that we had last year with the tenant file. And I think it was just, maybe it was the percent at household income that we struggled with. I know Lori and I worked on that a lot. So I'm feeling pretty confident that we've got that taken care of, but I do know that our lovely customers will let us know if we don't, and we will get a support ticket and we will figure it out and fix it.
Yep.
Well, we won't fix it. The
Yep.
people who know how to fix it will.
Yep. So remember that as you venture into this HUD export, whether it's your 10th time or your first time, Sarah is here, gladly awaiting your questions. So, if you get
Well, I wouldn't
stuck,
go that far.
I always tell people that when you write tickets, those are love notes to Sarah. So remember that, love notes to Sarah.
Yeah.
But if you have questions, don't get stuck.
Right.
Get a ticket into Sarah so that you can be moving forward with getting ready, because sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get through these.
Right.
And we want you to meet your deadline.
It is. And I think that, last year was my first year actually getting, deep into how to export. So I learned a lot. I should be more efficient and helpful this year with any questions or support tickets that you have. And as far as I will be here, I've committed to not going on vacation this year until it's over, because last year I did. So yeah, for everybody who cares, I'm off 3 days in July and then probably nothing until October. So plenty of time to get everybody through this year's data collection as painlessly as possible. You do have to provide your own tequila though. We can't do that.
Yeah.
I think that, okay, we're going to have another poll question. If I am thinking correctly, do we have our fine poll people standing by?
Ryan, we're ready for a poll question.
There we go. So these are basically going to ask you, what is a missing data file? What it shows, what's the project XML file show, and what does the no longer monitored file show? And the tenant zip file. Oh, we put them all in there. Okay, so tell us with your poll, maybe we have like more than 1 minute to fix this, what these files do.
And remember, you have about a minute or so.
There's 5 questions. We should have more time.
Okay, Ryan, Sarah's saying that this poll has 5 questions and we should have more than 1 minute.
Because it would be mean to just do.
So maybe let us have 2 minutes to answer these few extra questions on this one. Ryan says, okay, he'll give us 2 minutes for this poll.
I mean, I wrote the questions and I think I'd need a minute to read them for comprehension, more than a minute.
It's a lot of words.
That is a lot of words.
And for some people, it might be new concepts.
Yes.
Right.
I do. I think we do have some new clients who haven't even, gone live yet, and they'll be doing this, right?
Yep. Well, and also too, everybody has, new folks join the organization, and they might be lucky enough to get to do the HUD export.
They
And
draw the short straw.
Some of this will be new to those folks too. So.
Excellent.
Okay.
Our, I don't know where everybody is, but our computer is telling us it's 99 degrees today here in lovely Denver, Colorado. I don't want to go outside until the sun goes down.
Okay, we've got about 30 seconds left in the poll. We're probably just getting ready to wind down here in this poll. Okay. We gotta get these results here. Go ahead, Sarah.
I believe that is correct. What is the missing data file? Shows missing, hold on.
Or incorrect data from tenant files. That's true.
Project XML file shows all properties that were placed into service. So consider that your project or your property XML file. That's just going to show all the properties that were placed into service in the data collection year. This one is B, 3 is B, shows all properties with the compliance program is LIHTC and the compliance end date is in the data collection year.
That reminds me, I wanted to make a mention for everybody. And for some of you, this is old hat, but for folks that are new to this, it's worth mentioning, you know, this HUD export, right? The HUD kind of calls it, I think on their page, you know, they call it LIHTC data collection, right? So they're really targeting to collect this information about the LIHTC program, right? You know, kind of what's your agency doing, you know, in the communities in your state or your area with, you know, the LIHTC program. Remember though, too, that kind of, you know, as years are going forward, they are starting to collect a little bit more information about the home program. So I don't know if they'll might have to change the name and just say program data collection, but just know that, you know, as we kind of move forward, they are including a bit more and a bit more information about home programs. If your agency is, you know, has those funds to allocate.
They may be separate files. So we just like have the LIHTC HUD export utility and the home export.
I mean, maybe
the average income, right?
Maybe someday if they want to get enough detail around home, I suppose it's possible, but just interesting sort of trivia maybe about this whole collection process that I think is cool for folks to know about.
And we're not going to quiz you about that.
No,
there won't be a question for that one, I promise.
Nope.
Tenant zip file shows all tenant events that have been captured. It's not going to show the missing or incorrect data because that is what the missing data file is for and the tenant XML validation file is for. Yep. Oh, tenant XML validation is B, shows missing or incorrect data from tenant events. The validated, I know, and it's kind of confused because they both have the word tenant in it, and I understand the confusion. I apologize for that. But yeah, it's going to show the missing or incorrect data from tenant events. Like we went over the slide where it's like, you know, this has a rent amount of over 4,000, or as we're looking into, it has negative rent for whatever reason. So that's going to give you the straight to the tenant event level granularity.
And remember that those errors that we're reporting on in that tenant XML validation, those are errors that you're going to see when you actually do the upload on the HUD website. So we're trying to help you just catch anything else that might be remaining before you actually go and do that upload.
Right, because let's see, tenant XML validation. Properties that have issued, I'm trying to, because we talked about like the missing data file, that would kind of show some of the issues. One of the things that we see on the missing data file is that your, you know, compliance review tenants event submission status is still pending because they have to be submitted. So that would show on the missing data file. That would not show in the tenant XML validation because that's going straight through like the event data as opposed to the review data or any other associated records at the property level that would affect all of that. Okay, so let's see, what do we, oh, there we go. Tenant, there we go. I think that's it. I think I know these are a little confusing, but that's okay because you have the PowerPoint and you also have the help text to refer to when you need it.
Mhm.
So here's kind of what some of these errors might look like when you upload them to HUD. I mean, they look like they're in another language, and they are. It's very codey. I don't know if that's XML or what that is. But like in this particular example, it's going to tell you if this comes up, which we have decided that this is not going to happen because you're going to catch that in the tenant XML validation file before you even have to upload it to HUD. So we are crossing our fingers. This isn't something you're going to have to deal with this year. But an example is like if you were like, I don't know what that is. And before we had the tenant XML validation file, you would be like, oh gosh, this is this line number on the file that I uploaded, and I don't know what this means. So basically, if you were familiar with XML, what you would have to do is open up the XML, go to line 56300 and see which unit it's talking about. At that point, you'd have to scroll up and find the property. It would be annoying.
A lot of times, I think when you see, and you correct me if this is wrong or not, Sarah, but when you get, especially messages like this, where it's just really hard to decipher what they're saying, you can submit that in a ticket to
Absolutely.
us. And our developers can kind of decipher what HUD is trying to say to us. So hopefully at this point, we've got a lot of these covered, and you shouldn't see too many of these. But like we noted earlier, we believe that HUD is continually trying to improve the process and add additional validations. So you might see some new ones this year, and we don't know until you all give it a try.
Right. Because like I said, as far as we know, we've been told that there are no updates to at least the data.
Right.
That doesn't mean they haven't done things on the back end that might affect us, and we all have to figure out together.
Yeah.
I would expect if it was like a monumental change, we would have been alerted. Everybody would know that. No, he wouldn't have sent out an email.
I don't think for validations
Okay.
that he had, when we say he, we're speaking
Mike.
about Mike Holler. I haven't seen him send those kind of notifications previously.
Okay.
So I don't think that he will tell us about those.
So basically we're QAing by uploading for them, right? Okay.
I mean, we could ask though. I mean, it's worth an ask.
If there's something that happens that we don't recognize and our developers can't isolate, at that point, we would reach out to Mike Holler
Yeah.
and be like, we can't figure this one out. And I'm sure I've worked with some of you, and we've like included him on one of our support tickets before, which was fun. Okay, so some of the other errors, this is for, I believe this is the project file. And again, what it does when you see the airline error column, and you're looking at the error description, like, I have no idea what this means. So basically this means that, there's a bin address missing somewhere, or
Looks like that's what most of those are. So
like there's a phone value that's not formatted correctly. This is analysis and interpretation of, some kind of weird code. But again, on the XML, it tells you exactly what line to go to and kind of decipher it that way. But again, you are all busy. You do not have time to decipher the error. And that's why you contact us. And hopefully by this point, we've seen just about everything. So we're like State Farm that way. We should be able to, the State Farm, right? We should be able to kind of decipher it, or, have a memory cell twitch or some other document to refer to be able to get you moving back along as quickly as possible. So that is all we have. Do any of you have any more questions for us that you want to pop in the chat?
Yeah.
We're done a little bit early. We're like half an hour early, so we have plenty of time.
for outstanding questions.
Related to our HUD export training. I don't know.
And we fully realize that, once you get into this year's export and, you kind of start playing around with the data, you could have questions that come up. We know that we expect that, we might see some, special case scenarios
And
year to year.
Yeah, if we
through this.
If we don't, we just think you're not working, or you don't like us anymore or something. But yeah, I think this is just kind of our like kickoff event for HUD Export this year to mentally, emotionally prepare you for what's to come. And, the sooner you get started on trying to play around with that data, the better, because I believe that since we don't have any changes, this gives you a long runway to get there by whatever your due date is. And then obviously you have your help. And everybody who's been in here, you should know that if you're in the ProLinkHFA application and you're on a screen, you click that question mark back and it should take you to the area where you can find more information about. It is not always all inclusive, and you're very helpful when you let us know that there's pertinent information that is missing from the help file. And then we send love letters to Andrea about making help text updates. And then you can also just, again, how to get to the ticket screen and get in touch with us if you need additional help. All right, Bree.
Great. Good job, you guys. Thank you everybody for attending today. So next session is going to be in August. Sorry, I have too many pop-ups and comments. August is our next event, managing multiple funding sources. We're going to talk about these topics within that session. So managing multiple funding sources coming into the agency, allocations of funding sources and tracking the usage, and then global tracking across the agency's portfolio versus the local tracking on the deal level. So those are kind of the three main focus areas. That's just going to be a 45-minute session. And remind me of the date, because I don't see it here, but it's that regular recurring Wednesday. What is this? The second Wednesday of the month. So that should be what it is for August 3 looks like. So thank you. So thank you again to Kelly, Sarah, for presenting today and training. Please reach out to us with any questions. We'd be happy to circle back, bring them up during your MDR, your monthly meeting with ProLink, and we'll see you then. Thank you very much. And then this recording will be made available to you after we do our cleanup and take out the break and things like that. We'll upload it to our YouTube channel so that you can share it with your colleagues internally. All right. Thank you guys. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good week.